The Trump administration has fired Geoffrey Berman. He was the US attorney for the Southern District of New York. And the way he was fired was strange to say the least. It happened late last Friday night, and typically politicians do things like that when they're hoping that it wouldn't get much news attention. But of course, the press was paying attention, and there are questions flying about why he was fired and what the motivations were of the Trump administration. So again, people are asking, what is behind this? What's going on? What's the drama? Which means that we're in time for As the White House Turns.
Some very big mistakes. I asked for his resignation.
I'm disappointed in the Attorney General.
So how did we learn about this, Cenk? Well, we learned about it through the Justice Department at first. They announced late Friday night that Berman would be stepping down, only for Berman himself to issue an extraordinary statement indicating that he had no intention of doing so. By Saturday night, after receiving 2 separate letters from the Justice Department demanding his departure, at that point, Berman had officially resigned, having secured the appointment of his chosen deputy as his successor, rather than the Justice Department's preferred pick. So luckily, the person who's serving in his place right now is not a Trump lackey, is not a Barr loyalist, is not someone who's looking to end investigations that need to be done. It's actually Audrey Strauss, who is, again, Berman's own chief deputy. And Audrey will be serving in that role until possibly Trump nominates someone or Audrey gets replaced. So Trump tried to distance himself from all of this at first, but it was pathetically obvious that he was lying. The Atlantic reports that Donald Trump declared himself to be, quote, not involved just hours after Attorney General William Barr announced that the president himself dismissed Berman. Okay, so I want to get to what the possible reasons are for why Berman was forced out. But before I get to that, I wanted to get your thoughts on how we learned about this, Cenk.
Yeah, so I want to go through the timeline because there's 2 very, very clear, provable lies, which is then going to get into a rare agreement that I have with Chuck Schumer, the leader of the Democrats in the Senate. So first of all, Barr wrote that Berman had stepped down on Friday night. That's just a lie. Berman had not stepped down, and then Berman publicly said, I didn't step down. But Barr issued that statement, again, inarguable. So he flat out lied, and obviously investigators should ask why the top law enforcement official put out a lie like that. And then Berman says, I didn't step down. So then Barr puts out a second statement saying, oh yeah, well then we're firing you, and I talked to Trump and Trump fired you himself. Now, why is that? Why did Barr have to do that? Because the only person who has the authority to fire the US attorney in the Southern District of New York or anywhere is the president. Barr cannot legally fire Berman. Only Trump can legally fire Berman. And Barr very clearly said, yes, Trump fired you, okay? Then they asked Trump a couple hours later, as Anna pointed out. And he's like, no, I didn't. Okay, well, in that scenario, either Barr lied or Trump lied. Now, in that scenario, it's much more likely that Trump lied because he doesn't want his fingerprints on it, and he wants to be able to throw Barr under a bus later. It's something he does all the time. He tells him, fire Berman, he's working on a case that could cause me trouble. And then when they ask him, he's like, oh, I didn't fire him. Hey, that's the Attorney General's job, that's not my job. And moron, you might have wanted to look into it. It actually turns out it is your job. You're the only one legally allowed to fire him. But as usual, even when he's breaking laws, he's just too careless to bother covering it up in an effective way. And so finally, Berman says he resigns once he gets that concession that it's going to be his deputy and not some Trump lackey who's going to take over. But the reality is, at that point, he didn't resign. He'd already been publicly fired. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. That resignation means absolutely nothing. You cannot resign after you've been fired. So that's more like publicly a stanza move, that's all.
Right, I mean, Barr already put out a press release saying that he was out. And then at that point, he resigned. So you're right, it's not really a resignation. He was fired publicly before he even had an opportunity to resign. But I do want to go through some of the potential reasons why Berman was targeted by the Trump administration. And we'll start with the most benign reason that's come up in the press. And it has to do with one of Trump's friends, Jay Clayton, who apparently had been eyeing that position. So The Atlantic writes that according to Barr's original statement, Trump had decided to appoint Jay Clayton, currently the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, to the job. Clayton had recently golfed with the president at Trump's club in Bedminster, New Jersey, and had expressed interest in the US attorney job. So let me just stop right there, because I describe that as the most benign reason. And that alone, under any other administration, is a scandal, right? Favor for a favor, like I'm going golfing with this guy, he's eyeing a job, so I'm just gonna go ahead and push someone out and give him this job because he's my buddy. Like that, in any other administration, would not be described as benign. So I just want to be clear about that. But in the context of the Trump administration, go ahead.
Sorry, I gotta add one thing to the Clayton part of the story. Of course, Trump is not doing this for his golf buddy. He's doing it to get rid of Berman, which we'll talk more about in a second. But when it comes to Clayton, why Clayton? He's the head of the SEC, so obviously he's a lawyer. But the US Attorney's Office, they're prosecutors. And unless you've already been a prosecutor, you're almost never appointed as US Attorney. And so why is he picking Clayton? One of the banks that Clayton represented as an attorney was Deutsche Bank. And so he is known to be very soft on Wall Street, and specifically Deutsche Bank, which the Southern District of New York might have been investigating, and that might have been the reason why Berman was fired in the first place. So if you're gonna fire a guy like Berman, you need a guy like Clayton to come in to clean up and make sure that you and Deutsche Bank are free and clear.
A potential investigation into Deutsche Bank could also be one of the reasons, which is a more nefarious reason to get rid of Berman. And then there was also, some other nefarious reasons. Again, listed by The Atlantic, Berman's office was responsible for the prosecution of Michael Cohen, Trump's former personal lawyer, and for the related investigation of figures associated with the Trump administration or organization. It also indicted Halk Bank, a Turkish government-owned bank accused of violating Iranian sanctions, causing friction between Trump and the Turkish president. So that's one other possibility. Trump didn't want to have his relationship with Erdogan damaged through this investigation, and so that played into a possible motive for getting rid of Berman.
Well, this is where the stories of today intersect, because John Bolton revealed just now that Trump had told the leader of Turkey, Erdogan, hey, those are Obama's people prosecuting your guys in the Southern District of New York. I'll get rid of them and put in my people, and then you'll be okay. Bolton said it was actually one of the most shocking things that he heard in his entire time in the Trump era. He said no president that he's ever worked with or heard of would make a promise to do something like that, and it is literal obstruction of justice and totally illegal. And so, right as we're finding that out, Berman's actually fired, just like Trump promised the Turkish leader. So that's certainly another possibility. In fact, we've got a poll for you guys to ask you guys why you might have done it in a second.
Right, exactly. And then just to suss that out a little more, Berman's office was investigating another presidential lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, and the Halk Bank case is still ongoing. The most acute concern, therefore, is that Berman's firing was not retaliation for something he had already done, but an effort to prevent his office from doing something in the future. So the question that we have for you guys in the poll is, what's the real reason? What do you think is the real reason that Trump and Barr fired US Attorney Berman? And you have all of the reasons, potential reasons in that list, because he prosecuted Michael Cohen, because he's investigating Giuliani, because he's looking into Deutsche Bank, because he promised the leader of Turkey he would fire him. We have a link in the description box below. So just click on that and you can participate in the poll, or you can go to tyt.com/polls/Berman.
Yeah, and just to be clear, Trump had already tried to stop that investigation of Halk Bank, and he was not able to. So he was stymied by that, and they have continued to pursue that. I don't think it's over, Michael Cohen. You do not panic fire one of the most, well, actually the most important US attorney outside of the Attorney General 4 months before an election for something he did in the past. You do it for what he's about to reveal in the next 4 months. So when Chuck Schumer says that he's going to look to have the Judiciary Committee look into it, the Office of Professional Responsibility at the DOJ should look into it, and the Inspector General at the DOJ should look into it, he's absolutely right. That is the minimum place to start, but that is where he should start. And then if they, I don't think it could probably be done in a 4 to 6 month window, but if it can, they should definitely impeach Barr. Because there's absolutely no question that Barr lied at a minimum once, but probably twice about this incident. And by the way, when asked over and over again, so what is your official legitimate reason for firing Berman? Barr has had no comment. They didn't even bother stating an official reason for firing him. That, man, they are so lazy and incompetent in their corruption. So it's not just Trump. Barr should definitely be impeached over this.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.